All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Janice Klein's Marketing Coordinator for AOE, and today I'm speaking with Kimberly Kayler, AOE President. Hi, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for sitting down with me today.
Thanks for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about customer segmentation. Customer segmentation has been a long standard in the retail and automotive industries. For example, there are countless examples of car manufacturers slapping a different label on an automobile and marketing it to a dissimilar demographic, either based on a difference in price, image, or even branding. Concept of customer segmentation also is a standard operating procedure for the airline industry. Passengers with enough frequent flyer miles are part of an elite club that affords them the opportunity to board early, move up to first class, or use a special lounge. Applying this same philosophy to other markets through a relatively new concept, however, it can prove extremely beneficial in terms of customer retention and profitability. So Kimberly, can you describe customer segmentation in layman's terms for me?
Yep, sure. So in its simplest form, customer segmentation is a process by which you organize your customers or your clients with regards to their needs and your services. So it's a process by which you identify what you deem as valuable in a client and then rank the clients or the customers accordingly.
So what do you mean by valuable?
Well, for example, really taking a step back and looking at what do you value in a client. Maybe it's things like pay the bills on time, they treat your team with respect, they understand your services, maybe they're profitable, a source of referral. Those are all potential factors. You may have other ones as well that you consider. So if you just step back and say, hey, I'm sure you've said at some point, they're a good client or they're not a very good client. How were you judging that? Even if you didn't actually have a formal process, what were the things that actually went into that decision making and what are those factors?
Okay. So why would you want to tackle this process?
Well, as you can well imagine, you probably have a really good instinct about where you spend most of your time with the clients. And it's typically those clients or those customers that are the squeaky wheel. So we're constantly putting out fires, answering phone calls or emails. Maybe it's that client that tends to always be beating you up, fighting you about your invoicing and your prices and the cost of doing things can be very challenging. And by going through this process and rating, it allows you to actually look at where you're spending your time, where you're spending your effort. And then, from there, you can actually make decisions about where you do spend your time and effort.
Okay, so that's very interesting. How do you use this information?
Well, no different than the examples of the airline industry or the automotive industry, where you actually have tiers of clients. In the industries that we serve, professional service, design, construction industry, etc., it's really helpful for you to be able to tier your service as well. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean don't be responsive, abandon your great customer service, abandon your technical expertise. But when you go through this process, you'll likely find that maybe you're dropping everything for that client that ranks pretty low when you do this process, always putting out fires. And you're really at danger for that A client or that B client that pays your bills on time, refers profitable work to you, is profitable, really, is a great source of business for you and your team. And you're at a risk of actually not taking care of them, as you're always, again, dealing with that squeaky wheel.
Gotcha. So how would one get started?
Well, the first step is actually segmenting your customer base and to look at what you really value in a client. So make a list of those things that are as important. So I've already mentioned, referrals. They don't nickel and dime you on fees. They provide challenging work for which you're well suited. Possibility of a long-term relationship, future projects. Those are just a couple of ideas. There may be other things that you deem as important. And then with this list of attributes or factors, go through and weigh your clients on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can identify in a group and tally these things. You may segment them into A, B, C, and D clients. Maybe you have a ranking of 1 through 5. Really depends on how you want to structure it, but chances are you're going to really learn quite a bit. There's some things that you are going to, you already instinctually know that yeah, I bet this client ranks low, but every time we do this, every time we help a client go through this process, they always learn something. They always learn of, hey, this client really ranks pretty high. Maybe we need to make sure that we're spending more attention with them.
Gotcha. So can you give me an example what this may look like?
Sure. And, compared to the retail industry or airline industry, how we apply it in our industry is a little bit different. In the retail industry, you may actually push somebody to only getting online service, for example, for something. And I'm not recommending that that's what you do for your business, but you can look at it and maybe those A clients and B clients, you make sure get same day service if something happens. But if some project comes in the door for a C client or a D client, maybe it doesn't get your top senior people. Maybe it gets a more junior staff member, or you aren't as quick to respond. And again, I'm not saying abandon what you're known for. If you're known for being responsive, technical experts, et cetera, keep those things still as the hallmark of your success. But all clients aren't equal, and we can't apply our service equal. And that's one of the things we learned at AOE, is that we treated everybody equally, provided that same level of high service, even to the ones that paid their bills slowly, or really weren't a good client when we looked at it as compared to some of the others.
Gotcha. So are there proven benefits to this process?
Definitely. The clients that we have taught this process have all shared with us that they, have not only learned a lot, their profitability grew quite a bit within their organizations. And I don't want to send the message that this is all about being profitable. Obviously, we are all in business, not only from the revenue and profitability standpoint, but to provide our craft, provide our products, provide our services. But it is something that we obviously have to be mindful of. I know from an AOE perspective, it's been really helpful for us to identify where we are spending our time. And then what you do from that is actually develop client action plans. So you may have a client that ranks as a B or a C client, and that doesn't mean they're a bad client, but you can take a step back and say, hey, what can we do to jointly work with them to grow them to that next level? How can we grow them to an A client? How can we grow them to a B client? What are the things that they value in the relationship? What are the things that we value, et cetera? Another example of that may simply just be communication. An A client, you may decide warrants an actual in-person meeting once a month, or, some type of more contact. And as opposed to maybe that C client, you only need to get in front of them in, an actual person-to-person meeting, in-person meeting, maybe once a quarter. So just an example of how you can play with it and really build out action plans for all of them.
Gotcha. So what can AOE do to help?
Well, if you're interested in exploring this process, let us know. We can schedule a brainstorming call with you. Again, every client that we have taught this process has shared that it's been incredibly helpful for them. And we can help you brainstorm and discuss through what you value in a client. And that exercise in itself is actually really, really helpful to make sure that your senior leadership is all on the same page. The other benefit of it is it'll actually help you when you go after work to take a step back and really identify what is the type of work that we want. What do we value in a client? So again, AOE is here to help. We'd love to help you through this process, teach it to you. We believe in it strongly. And with the amount of work that we're seeing in the design and construction industry right now, the work that's going to be coming in from federal funding, and the workforce development challenges, the shortage that we have of workers, it's more important now than ever to make sure that you have these types of action plans in place.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you, Kimberly, for joining me. I'm sure our audience is going to find this very interesting information. If you want to reach out to AOE, you can go on our website, aoeteam.com. So I appreciate you sitting down with me today, Kimberly. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Janet.